Story 1. I've been working at Hometown Auto Sales for nearly 7 years now. After graduating with a business degree from State University, I struggled to find work that actually used my education. The job market was brutal, countless applications, dozens of interviews, and nothing but rejection emails or worse, total silence. I bounced between retail jobs for almost 2 years, working at the mall selling phones, then managing a coffee shop, before finally landing at a big box store's electronics department. The pay was barely enough to cover my student loans and rent for my tiny apartment. It was at a family barbecue when my uncle mentioned they needed someone at the dealership where he was the service manager. "You're good with people," he said, "and you understand numbers. Why not give it a shot?" I was skeptical at first. I never saw myself as a car salesman, but desperation and mounting debt pushed me to apply. To my surprise, I not only got the job but discovered I had a genuine talent for connecting with people and helping them find the right vehicle. There's something deeply satisfying about matching a family with a perfect SUV that meets all their needs, or helping a young professional find a reliable sedan that fits their budget. Over the years, I've risen to become one of the top salespeople at the dealership. I've built a reputation for honesty and fairness. I don't push unnecessary add-ons or try to upsell features people don't need. This approach has earned me a solid base of repeat customers and referrals. My boss appreciates my style, even if it sometimes means I don't maximize profit on every sale. "Long-term relationships build better business," he always says. During my time here, I've encountered all types of customers walking through our doors. The excited first-time buyers who need guidance through every step. The practical family upgraders who come armed with spreadsheets and safety ratings. The tough negotiators who treat the process like psychological warfare. The indecisive browsers who visit 7 times before making a decision. And occasionally, the entitled nightmares who believe rules simply don't apply to them. But none quite like the woman I encountered last Tuesday. Our dealership had recently introduced a special discount program for military widows. It was my boss's idea after his sister lost her husband in active duty overseas. He saw firsthand how she struggled financially while raising their 2 children alone. The discount wasn't massive, 10% off the sticker price, but it was our way of giving back to those who had sacrificed so much. We required simple verification, a death certificate or military notification of death, plus ID showing the relationship. Nothing intrusive, just basic proof to prevent abuse of a program meant to help those who genuinely needed it. That Tuesday started like any other. The morning meeting covered the month's sales targets. We were on track. New inventory arrivals, 3 models we'd been waiting on, and service department updates. My uncle's team was swamped with seasonal maintenance appointments. I had just finished helping an elderly couple with paperwork on their new sedan, a reliable model I'd recommended because of its easy entry height and excellent visibility, perfect for their needs when the front door swung open dramatically. A woman in her late 40s marched in like she owned the place. She wore designer clothes that looked expensive but somehow slightly mismatched, as if she was trying too hard to appear wealthy. Her oversized handbag was a recognizable luxury brand, and her fingernails were manicured in a bright red that matched her lipstick. Oversized sunglasses perched on her head despite the cloudy day, and her highlighted hair was styled in what I can only describe as an aggressive bob. Everything about her demeanor screamed, "I'm important and you'd better acknowledge it." She scanned the showroom with narrowed eyes before making a beeline directly for me. I put on my professional smile and extended my hand. "Me. Good morning, ma'am. How can I help you today?" She didn't shake my hand. Instead, she pointedly looked me up and down, as if assessing whether I was worthy of her attention, then immediately pointed to a bright red SUV on display, our newest luxury model with all the premium features. "Woman, I want that one. I heard you have a special discount for military widows." Her voice was loud enough that several other customers turned to look. I maintained my composure, used to handling difficult personalities. "Me. Yes, we do offer a special program for military widows. Were you interested in that particular model?" "Woman. Obviously. wouldn't be pointing at it otherwise. I nodded and guided her toward the vehicle, explaining its features as we walked. The SUV was our top-of-the-line model with leather interior, advanced safety systems, panoramic sunroof, and a premium sound system. I was halfway through explaining the intelligent cruise control when she interrupted me with an impatient wave. "Woman, I don't care about all that technical stuff. Just tell me the price with my discount." Me, of course. The sticker price is $30,995. With the military widow discount, it would come to approximately $31,495. If you don't mind me asking, did your husband serve recently? Her face changed subtly. She looked away and dabbed at her eye with a manicured finger, though I noticed no tears actually formed. Her voice dropped to what seemed like a practiced whisper. "Woman, yes, my husband was a brave soldier. He passed last year. Afghanistan. It's been so hard without him." Something felt off about her story. Her grief seemed performed rather than genuine, like someone imitating sadness from a daytime soap opera. I'd unfortunately helped several actual military widows through our program, and there was a weight to their grief that this woman wasn't carrying. They rarely brought up their loss unless necessary, and when they did, it was with quiet dignity, not dramatic flair. Still, I wasn't about to accuse anyone of lying about something so serious without evidence. Me. I'm very sorry for your loss, ma'am. For the discount program, we just need some basic verification. Before I could finish explaining, her demeanor changed instantly. Her face hardened and her volume increased dramatically. "Woman. Verification? Are you serious? I tell you my husband died serving this country, and you want me to prove it? That's disgusting." Her voice had risen to the point where every head in the showroom turned our way. My colleague at the next desk caught my eye with a raised eyebrow, silently asking if I needed backup. Me. I understand it's a sensitive topic, ma'am. It's just a standard procedure for the discount. A death certificate or military notification would suffice. We need to maintain the integrity of the program for all military families. Woman. I don't carry my husband's death certificate in my purse. What kind of person would do that? Do you know how traumatizing it is to look at that document? I can't believe you're putting me through this. By now, my colleague had noticed the commotion and subtly signaled to ask if I needed help. I gave a small shake of my head. I was still hoping to de-escalate the situation, aware that other customers were watching this unfold. Me? Perhaps we could call the Veterans Affairs office together. They could provide verification over the phone. Or if you'd prefer to go home and return with documentation, I'd be happy to hold the vehicle for 24 hours. She crossed her arms tightly across her chest, her face reddening. Woman. Fine. But I want to speak to your manager first. This is harassment. You're disrespecting my husband's memory and discriminating against me as a grieving widow. I nodded professionally and walked to my manager's office, explaining the situation in hushed tones. He frowned, having dealt with discount fraud attempts before. Manager, something doesn't feel right about this. Let me handle it. He suggested I look her up on social media while he went to speak with her. It might seem underhanded, but we'd had issues with discount fraud before, people claiming military service they never performed or relationships that didn't exist. He reminded me that real military families deserve the discount, not opportunists trying to game the system. I went back to my desk and quickly searched her name, which I'd seen on her driver's license when she'd taken it out earlier to check her phone. Her Facebook profile was public, and what I saw confirmed my suspicions. Just yesterday, she had posted multiple photos of a backyard barbecue. The caption read, "My hubby makes the best steaks. #blessed #married life," with a photo of a middle-aged man standing proudly next to a grill, spatula in hand, wearing a novelty apron that said "Grill Sergeant," ironically, the closest thing to military service in the entire scenario. Scrolling through her timeline revealed more recent posts about her very much alive husband, celebrating their anniversary last month, complaining about his snoring last week, and tagging him in memes about marriage. There wasn't a single post suggesting bereavement or military connection. I took screenshots and showed them to my manager. He nodded grimly and went to handle the situation while I followed at a distance, ready to provide backup if needed. By now, the woman was pacing impatiently by the red SUV, tapping her foot and checking her watch. My manager approached her with professional courtesy. Manager. Good morning, ma'am. I'm the sales manager. I understand you're interested in our military widow discount program. Woman. Finally, someone who might actually help me. Your salesperson has been giving me the runaround and questioning my tragic circumstances. Manager. I apologize for any inconvenience. However, I'm afraid we can't offer you that particular discount. Her face darkened instantly. Woman. And why not? Manager. Well, our records indicate that your husband is still alive. Woman. What records? What are you talking about? My manager showed her the Facebook screenshots on his tablet. The color drained from her face, then quickly returned as anger flooded in. Woman. You've been stalking me online? That's illegal. That's invasion of privacy. I'm going to sue this entire dealership. You can't just look up customers on social media. Manager. Ma'am, your Facebook profile is public. Anyone can view those posts. We didn't access anything private. Woman. That's my brother. That's not my husband. My manager maintained his calm demeanor, scrolling to another photo. Manager. The man in these photos is tagged as your husband. His profile also lists him as married to you. And there are wedding photos dated 3 years ago with captions about your marriage. The woman's voice rose to a shriek that echoed through the entire showroom. Woman. This is discrimination against grieving women. You don't want to give me the discount because you're all sexist. I demand to speak to the owner. I'll call the Better Business Bureau. I'll write reviews on every website online. Other customers were now openly watching the spectacle. Some had their phones out, probably recording what was happening. A young family with 2 small children moved toward the exit, clearly uncomfortable with the scene. My manager stood firm but kept his voice even. Manager. Ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to lower your voice and consider leaving. Attempting to defraud our military discount program is something we take very seriously. That discount exists to support families who have made real sacrifices. Woman. I'm not leaving until I get my discount. My husband died for this country. How dare you question my integrity? As if on cue, like something from a sitcom, with impeccable timing, the front door opened, and a confused-looking middle-aged man walked in. He was of average build, wearing casual clothes and a baseball cap. He spotted the woman and approached with a puzzled expression. Man, there you are. I've been waiting in the car for 15 minutes. Did you forget I was picking you up for lunch? The showroom fell silent. Every conversation stopped mid-sentence. The woman turned white, her mouth opening and closing without sound, like a fish out of water. Woman. I was just. The man looked around, noticing everyone staring. Man, what's going on? My manager cleared his throat. Manager. Sir, your wife was just explaining how she qualifies for our military widow discount because her husband died in Afghanistan last year. The man's face cycled through confusion, realization, and then anger, a remarkable emotional journey visible in real time. Man. Military widow. What the hell are you talking about? I've never even been in the military. I work in accounting. The woman tried to grab his arm, her nails digging into his sleeve. Woman. Honey, let's just go. These people are horrible. They're trying to embarrass me. The man shook her off, his face growing redder by the second. Man. No, I want to understand what's happening here. What did you tell these people? My manager explained the situation calmly, showing him the Facebook post from the previous day alongside his wife's claim about his supposed military death. The man's face grew increasingly red, a vein visibly pulsing in his forehead. Man, you told these people I was dead. to get a discount on a car. Woman. They're making it sound worse than it is. I just wanted the red SUV, and they have this stupid rule about... Man, stop talking. Just stop. He turned to my manager, genuine shame evident in his expression. Man, I apologize for my wife's behavior. This is completely unacceptable. Manager, no need for you to apologize, sir. But I do need to inform you that your wife is no longer welcome at our dealership. The man nodded, his jaw clenched tight. Man, understood. And she won't be getting a new car anytime soon, either. He turned to his wife, keys in hand, voice low but intense. Man, we're leaving. Now, in our perfectly functional 5-year-old sedan that we're going to keep driving until it falls apart. Woman, but... Man, not another word. As they left, we could hear them arguing all the way to their car in the parking lot. The woman was trying to explain that it was just a little white lie, and that everyone does it, and that she deserved something nice for once. The man wasn't having any of it, his responses becoming increasingly clipped and cold. The showroom remained quiet for a moment after they left. Then my manager turned to the other customers with an apologetic smile. Manager, folks, I apologize for the disruption. Anyone interested in seeing our actual military family programs, I'd be happy to explain the legitimate qualifications. Later that day, one of our mechanics who lived in the same neighborhood as the couple told us the story had spread like wildfire. Apparently, the husband was sleeping in the guest room and telling everyone who would listen about his wife's attempted fraud. Their driveway had become a temporary gathering spot for neighbors just happening to walk by to hear the latest update. The woman, meanwhile, had taken to social media to complain about our dealership, omitting the part about her false claims and focusing instead on how we humiliated her. She didn't expect her husband's cousin to comment on the post with, "Maybe don't pretend your husband is dead next time," before she hastily deleted everything. 2 weeks later, the husband came back alone. He looked tired but resolute. He apologized again for the scene his wife had caused and explained they'd been in marriage counseling since the incident. Apparently, this wasn't her first attempt at deception for personal gain, just the most spectacular and public one. He ended up buying himself a modest, practical sedan paying full price without complaint. As I handled his paperwork, he mentioned he'd be the only one driving it. His wife, he explained, would be taking public transportation for the foreseeable future while she worked on understanding the difference between wants and needs. A month after that, I saw them together at the local grocery store. She was pushing the cart, head down, notably subdued compared to her dealership performance. He was examining their shopping list with the same intensity I imagine he brought to his accounting job. They seemed to be communicating, at least, which was something. I've seen many entitled people in this job, the ones who think the rules don't apply to them, who believe their desires outweigh others' needs, who think nothing of lying to get what they want. But trying to fake your spouse's death while they're waiting outside to pick you up for lunch remains the most spectacular display of entitlement I've ever witnessed. Sometimes I wonder if she learned anything from the experience beyond "don't get caught." But that's not my problem. My job is to sell cars, not rehabilitate character. And these days, whenever someone mentions they qualify for a special discount program, I smile politely and say, "That's wonderful. Let me walk you through our simple verification process." Story 2. I've been working at Seared Perfection Steakhouse for almost 5 years now. It's one of those fancy places where you need reservations weeks in advance. And the cheapest steak on the menu costs more than I'd typically spend on groceries for an entire week. But the tips are amazing, and I've learned so much about fine dining that I can now tell you exactly how each cut of meat should be cooked just by looking at it. Most nights go smoothly, wealthy customers enjoying their expensive meals, business people making deals over wine, and couples celebrating special occasions. But last Saturday night, that's one shift I'll never forget. It was a particularly busy evening. Every table was full, and we had a waiting list that could fill the restaurant twice over. I was serving a section near the window, which had the best view of the city skyline. My tables were all pleasant that night, a couple celebrating their anniversary, a group of friends having a reunion, and a family with well-behaved teens. Then she walked in. She wasn't on my section, thank goodness, but I could tell she was trouble from the moment she stepped through the door. Her blonde hair was cut in that classic, "I want to speak to your manager" style, and she wore enough jewelry to open a small boutique. She was seated at my colleague's section, and I felt a pang of sympathy for him. He's new, only been with us for a couple months. Good kid, but still learning how to handle difficult customers. I was delivering appetizers to my anniversary couple when I heard her voice cut through the ambient restaurant chatter like a knife. "Karen, excuse me. I specifically requested a table by the window. This simply won't do." My colleague, "I apologize, ma'am, but all window tables are currently occupied. We can move you when one becomes available." "Karen, do you know who I am? I'm friends with the owner's wife's yoga instructor. I demand a window seat now." The hostess came over, trying to defuse the situation. After about 10 minutes of back and forth, Karen reluctantly stayed at her original table, but not before making everyone within earshot aware of her displeasure. I tried to focus on my own tables, but it was hard to ignore the commotion. Karen sent back the complimentary bread basket, complaining it wasn't warm enough. She criticized the wine list. She found fault with the lighting, the music, even the way the silverware was arranged. Then came the moment that would set everything in motion. "Karen, waiter, I need to speak with you immediately." My colleague rushed over, notepad ready. "Karen, I have a severe gluten allergy. Severe. I can't eat anything on this menu. Nothing here is safe for me." My colleague, "I'm very sorry to hear that, ma'am. Our chef can definitely prepare something special to accommodate your allergy. We take food allergies very seriously here." Karen, "Well, you should. And since I'm going to be so limited in what I can eat, I think it's only fair that my meal should be complimentary." My colleague, "I'm afraid we can't offer the meal for free, but we're more than happy to create a safe, delicious gluten-free option for you." Karen, "This is outrageous. I'm being discriminated against for my medical condition. Get me your manager." The restaurant manager came over, a seasoned veteran of entitled customer encounters. She explained politely but firmly that while they would absolutely prepare a safe meal, they couldn't offer it for free. Karen eventually huffed and agreed to order, but made it clear she was deeply unhappy. Our head chef, who has over 20 years of experience and has worked in Michelin-starred restaurants, took the allergy notification extremely seriously. He personally prepared Karen's meal, a beautiful gluten-free steak with roasted vegetables and a special sauce he created just for her. He even came out from the kitchen to deliver it himself, something he rarely does. "Chef, ma'am, I've prepared this dish myself, ensuring no gluten contamination. The steak is our prime cut, cooked medium as you requested, with a special herb sauce that contains no gluten. The vegetables are locally sourced and roasted with olive oil and sea salt." Karen looked at the plate with disgust. "Karen, this is what you expect me to eat? It doesn't even look fancy. Where's the garnish? Where's the special presentation? You're clearly giving me less effort because I have an allergy." "Chef, I assure you, ma'am, this dish received my utmost attention. The simplicity of the presentation is intentional to highlight the quality of the ingredients." "Karen, I bet everyone else gets much better looking food. This is discrimination. I demand to speak to the owner." The chef, maintaining his professionalism despite the insult to his craft, apologized and returned to the kitchen. The manager explained that the owner wasn't present and offered to take 10% off the bill as a gesture of goodwill. Karen was not appeased. What happened next left the entire restaurant in shock. Karen spotted my anniversary couple enjoying their meal, which included our famous house-made bread rolls. While her waiter was at another table, she stood up, walked over to their table, and did the unthinkable. "Karen, you don't mind if I take one of these, do you? I need to prove a point." Before they could respond, she snatched a roll from their bread basket and returned to her table. The couple was too stunned to react. Karen stared directly at her waiter as he returned, then at the manager who was walking by, and took an enormous bite of the roll. "Karen, see? I'm eating gluten and I'm perfectly fine. You people are so gullible with these allergy accommodations. I just wanted a better meal." The restaurant fell silent. Even the kitchen staff had poked their heads out to witness this spectacle. My anniversary couple looked horrified. The manager started walking toward Karen's table, likely to ask her to leave. But then, something strange happened. Karen's smug expression faltered. She touched her neck, then her face. Red blotches had begun appearing on her skin, spreading rapidly. Her eyes widened in panic. "Karen, what's happening?" "My throat, it feels tight." Within seconds, it became clear she was having a severe allergic reaction. Her face was swelling, and she was having trouble breathing. Fortunately, one of my other customers was a doctor, who rushed over immediately. "Doctor, she's having an anaphylactic reaction. Does anyone have an EpiPen?" No one did. The manager called 911, while the doctor did what he could to help Karen, who was now genuinely terrified. The ambulance arrived within minutes. As they were loading her onto the stretcher, Karen, between gasping breaths, had the audacity to declare, "Karen, the restaurant, did this to me. They'll pay my medical bills." The paramedic, "Ma'am, please try not to speak. We need to get you to the hospital right away." After Karen was whisked away, the manager comped my anniversary couple's entire meal and gave them a gift certificate for their next visit. The restaurant gradually returned to normal, though the incident was all anyone could talk about. 2 days later, I was working the lunch shift when our manager gathered the staff for a quick meeting. Karen had sent an email demanding the restaurant cover her medical bills, claiming we had deliberately exposed her to an allergen. The manager showed us the hospital report, which Karen had attached as evidence of our negligence. The report stated, in no uncertain terms, that Karen did indeed have a severe wheat allergy, one she had apparently been unaware of until now. The doctor's notes mentioned that Karen had admitted to sometimes claiming food allergies to get special treatment at restaurants, but had never experienced symptoms before. The manager had responded to Karen's email with a polite but firm refusal, along with security camera footage of her stealing the bread roll and eating it voluntarily. She also included statements from witnesses, including the doctor who had helped her at the restaurant. We never heard from Karen again. But the story became something of a legend at Seared Perfection. The chef even created a new dessert called the Honest Flourless Chocolate Cake, available only to those with genuine gluten allergies, and always served with a smile. As for me, I've seen plenty of entitled customers in my years of service, but Karen takes the cake gluten-free or otherwise. I still wonder sometimes if she learned anything from the experience, or if she's out there somewhere, trying to scam her way into another free meal. For her sake, I hope she at least carries an EpiPen now. Story 3. If working as a gate agent for Pacific Airways for 5 years has taught me anything, it's that people show their true colors when they travel. But nothing could have prepared me for what happened last Tuesday on Flight 302 to Honolulu. I wasn't supposed to work that day. My coworker had a family emergency, so I picked up her shift at the last minute. Little did I know I'd witness one of the most dramatic passenger meltdowns in my entire career. I was handling the boarding process for the 11 a.m. departure. The morning had been hectic. A minor maintenance delay on an earlier flight had created a domino effect, and passengers were already on edge. But everything seemed to be getting back on track, and Flight 302 was only running 15 minutes behind schedule. I was checking the passenger manifest when a couple approached my counter about 30 minutes before boarding. The woman was wearing a white sundress with a "just married" pin, and her husband looked uncomfortable in a Hawaiian shirt that still had the price tag hanging from the sleeve. I noticed right away that she had that determined look I've come to recognize as trouble. The woman slammed her boarding passes on my counter with such force that my water bottle nearly toppled over. "We're on our honeymoon, and we need to be upgraded to first class." I smiled politely, already sensing where this was going. "Congratulations on your marriage. Unfortunately, first class is completely booked for this flight. I'd be happy to put you on our upgrade list for your return flight." Her face turned a shade of red that matched the hibiscus pattern on her husband's shirt. "No, you don't understand. This is our honeymoon. It's a once-in-a-lifetime trip." Her husband shifted awkwardly beside her, staring at the floor as if hoping it might swallow him whole. "Honey, it's really not a big deal. The economy seats look comfortable enough." She whipped around to face him with such speed that her oversized sun hat nearly flew off. "Not a big deal? We paid thousands for this trip. The least they can do is give us a free upgrade." I maintained my professional demeanor, despite knowing exactly how this scene would play out. I'd seen it dozens of times before. "I'm sorry, but all first-class seats have been purchased. I can't offer complimentary upgrades when there are no seats available." She leaned over the counter, invading my personal space. I could smell her overpowering perfume and see the smudge of lipstick on her front teeth. "Well, just bump someone else, then. We're newlyweds." At this point, her husband looked like he wanted to disappear. A crimson flush crept up his neck as he tugged gently at her arm. "Please, let's just go sit down. The flight leaves soon," he whispered. She yanked her arm away from him. "Stop undermining me. I know how to handle this." He sighed and took a step back, a gesture that seemed to speak volumes about their relationship dynamic. "I want to speak to your supervisor immediately," she demanded, tapping her acrylic nails on the counter. I called my supervisor over, a veteran of 20 years who had seen it all. He calmly explained the same policy while the woman grew increasingly agitated. Eventually, she stormed off, dragging her husband behind her like a reluctant puppy. "Good luck with that one," my supervisor muttered under his breath as we watched them retreat to the seating area. I'd dealt with plenty of entitled passengers before, so I hoped that was the end of it. I was very, very wrong. When boarding began 40 minutes later, the couple was nowhere to be seen. I started to hope they'd decided to take a different flight. But just as we called the final boarding group, they appeared, the woman marching toward me with fire in her eyes, while her husband trailed behind, carrying both of their overstuffed carry-ons. I scanned their boarding passes without issue and wished them a good flight. The husband gave me an apologetic smile, while the woman glared daggers at me. "This isn't over," she hissed as she passed. I thought my part in this drama was over, but 20 minutes later, my colleague from the cabin crew rushed out to the jetway, her face pale. "Flight attendant, we need security at the gate now. We have an out-of-control passenger." Before I could respond, I heard screaming from inside the plane. The sound echoed through the jetway, a high-pitched, rage-filled shriek that made the hairs on my arms stand up. I followed my colleague back onto the aircraft to find the newlywed woman standing in the aisle, pointing at an elderly couple in first class. "Woman, those people need to get out of our seats. This is my honeymoon." The lead flight attendant, a petite woman with the patience of a saint, was trying to calm her down. "Ma'am, those passengers have purchased first-class tickets. Your assigned seats are 23A and 23B. "Woman, I don't care what they paid. Do you know how much we spent on this honeymoon? This is discrimination." The elderly man in first class looked bewildered, his hand protectively covering his wife's. "We booked these seats 6 months ago for our 50th anniversary." This revelation only enraged her further. She pointed a trembling finger at them. "You've had 50 years together. This is my first marriage." Her husband was frantically trying to pull her back toward their assigned seats, his face now the color of a ripe tomato. "Please stop. Everyone is staring. Let's just sit down." "Woman, no, I will not sit in economy on my honeymoon. This is supposed to be special." She turned to the other passengers in first class. "Which one of you is going to do the right thing and give up your seat? Anyone?" No one here has a heart." The flight attendant maintained remarkable composure. "Ma'am, you need to take your assigned seat, or I'll have to ask you to leave the aircraft." What happened next left everyone speechless. The woman let out a shriek that could have shattered glass, then actually spat directly in the flight attendant's face. A collective gasp rippled through the cabin. "Woman, you can't make me leave. I paid for this flight." The cabin went completely silent. Even the babies stopped crying. The flight attendant wiped her face with a tissue, her hands shaking slightly, though her voice remained steady. "Flight attendant, security will escort you off this aircraft immediately." The husband looked absolutely mortified. He stared at his new wife as if seeing her for the first time, or perhaps seeing her clearly at last. Then, without a word, he grabbed his carry-on bag from the overhead bin. "Woman, what are you doing? Put that back." "Husband, I can't do this anymore." His voice was quiet but firm, carrying through the silent cabin. Every passenger was watching the scene unfold, many recording it on their phones. "Woman, what are you talking about? Defend me. Tell them it's our honeymoon." "Husband, this isn't about the seats. It's about how you're treating people. I've been making excuses for your behavior for months, telling myself you were just stressed about the wedding. But this is who you are, isn't it?" "Woman, are you seriously taking their side right now?" "Husband, I'm not taking sides. I'm just done. I can't spend my life with someone who treats people this way." And then, to everyone's astonishment, he walked straight off the plane. The woman screamed after him, calling him pathetic and weak, but he didn't look back. His shoulders straightened with each step he took down the aisle, as if shedding a heavy burden. "Woman, fine, leave. I'll enjoy Hawaii by myself." Security arrived moments later, two officers who exchanged knowing glances as they approached her. As they escorted her off the plane, she continued ranting about how we'd ruined her honeymoon and how she'd sue the airline, her voice fading as they led her down the jetway. The delay lasted about 40 minutes while her checked luggage was removed from the cargo hold. The captain came on the intercom and apologized for the wait, and surprisingly, most passengers were understanding. A few even applauded when we finally closed the door for departure. The elderly couple in first class were visibly shaken, and the flight attendants gave them complimentary champagne. As part of airline policy, I had to fill out an incident report. The woman was placed on our no-fly list, meaning she couldn't use her return ticket either. I wondered how she'd get back home from Hawaii. The report would go to all departments, including customer service, who would handle the inevitable complaint she would file. I didn't think much more about the incident until 3 days later, when a coworker sent me a link to a social media post that was going viral. It was from the husband, explaining his side of the story. According to his post, they'd only known each other for 6 months before the wedding. They met at a charity fundraiser where she had seemed charming and passionate about helping others. Her behavior had become increasingly demanding during wedding planning, but he chalked it up to bridal stress. He admitted he'd been ignoring red flags for months: the way she berated servers, her constant demands for special treatment, how she'd throw tantrums when things didn't go her way. The post included a particularly telling anecdote. During their rehearsal dinner, she'd made the wedding planner cry over the arrangement of the centerpieces. While everyone else was uncomfortable, he told himself it was just nerves and perfectionism. He wrote that leaving her at the airport was the hardest and easiest decision he'd ever made. Hardest because he felt like a failure for walking away from his marriage so quickly, but easiest because he knew with absolute certainty it was the right thing to do. The final line of his post read, "The marriage was a huge mistake, and I've already filed for an annulment." The honeymoon phase ended before we even got off the ground, literally. The post had thousands of supportive comments, with many people sharing their own stories of narrowly escaping toxic relationships. Some commenters who'd been on our flight confirmed his account and praised his decision to walk away. One person had even uploaded a video of the incident that had over 1 million views. A week later, I was working at the gate for another Hawaii flight when I spotted a familiar face in the boarding line. It was the husband, traveling alone with a backpack. He recognized me too and approached the counter after most passengers had boarded. "Husband, I just wanted to apologize again for what happened. I should have seen the warning signs earlier." Me: "There's no need to apologize. You didn't do anything wrong." Husband: "Still, I feel responsible. I ignored so many red flags because I wanted to believe she was the person I thought she was at the beginning." Me: "We all make mistakes in relationships. What matters is learning from them." Husband: "Her family reached out to me. Apparently this isn't the first time she's done something like this. They said they tried to warn me before the wedding, but I thought they were just being overprotective." Me: "Where are you headed now?" Husband: "Still going to Hawaii, actually. I had these vacation days approved already, and I figured I might as well use them. Time to reset and figure out what I really want in life." Me: "Well, I hope you enjoy your trip." As I scanned his boarding pass, I noticed he'd been upgraded to first class not by request, but because of a last-minute equipment change that had opened up seats. Sometimes karma works in mysterious ways. Husband: "First class? I didn't pay for this." Me: "It's a random upgrade. The system occasionally selects passengers." He smiled for what might have been the first time in weeks. "Thanks. I promise not to spit on anyone." We both laughed, and I watched him board the plane, shoulders relaxed, walking toward a vacation that was now truly about self-discovery rather than a honeymoon facade. As for his ex, rumor has it she tried to book another flight with us using her maiden name, but our system flagged her ID. Last I heard, she had to take a 3-day ferry and bus journey to get back from Hawaii. I'd feel sorry for her if she hadn't assaulted my colleague, the flight attendant who was spat on, pressed charges for assault, and there's a pending court case. The woman's social media accounts have gone dark after the backlash from her ex-husband's post going viral. Some people never learn, but others, like the husband, get a second chance to make better choices. And sometimes those better choices begin with walking away from toxic people, even when it means leaving them at the gate. Working at the airport, I've seen countless couples embarking on honeymoons, anniversaries, and family vacations. But it's rare to witness the exact moment someone chooses self-respect over a toxic relationship. As I watched him settle into his first-class seat, I couldn't help but think he was flying toward a much better future than the one he'd just escaped.